So this is going to be it's kind of a big shock for everybody. But if a scout comes down with COVID, if it were to be defined as coming from a scouting activity, the council is not the ones who would be liable. It is your chartering organization as the owner of your units. So therefore, they're the ones who need to understand what your calendar is and approve it. A simple blanket approval of the calendar would suffice from our end, but this needs to be a conversation. I had a conversation with a charter org rep from a church, Presbyterian church in Newark about 3 weeks ago, and he informed me that according to the county, the scouting units are considered businesses and not part of the ministry and not covered by that clause. So this is something that is very important to look at with your chartering organization if you have a religious charter, because they may view you differently than they do the typical youth ministry or other ministries within the church. One more. Okay. And so unit-based activities, from the council standpoint, we are really pushing den and patrol method and really pushing meetings at that level, because in Alameda County, it is a group of 12 that is allowed. So with that, really that makes sense for dens and patrols. You may be wondering, I got a great question yesterday from Patrick, and that is on lions and tigers. So with lions and tigers, what we are saying is reduce the number of youth, because it is an adult partner program, to have them together. So if your den leader is also a parent, which hopefully it is in most cases, you would not want to exceed 6 youth in the den at any particular meeting in order to stay within the county guideline of 12. We do require 2 deep leadership. So that does not have to be 2 people involved in the meeting directly. We encourage parents and siblings, as in many Cub Scout packs, they do come to meetings, to stay at arm's length, distanced away from the scouts, and if needed, only interact with their scout. For the troop, this is a little bit easier. Unfortunately, the acronym Babysitters of America, a little bit more common in the troop setting. So for that standpoint, again, make sure your parents who are not actively engaged in the meeting maintain a distance from the scouts, and if they need to step in, to only interact with their one scout, again, to help protect everybody else. Youth protection training is a requirement as well. If you're looking to go outside and do some camping, the council camps are going to be open for family-based camping. That is a decision based on looking at all 10 counties that are across the Golden Gate Area Council. We have 6 where our scouts come from, and an additional 4 when you look at our camps, and trying to get a cross-section of what we can do against all of them is quite difficult. So family-based camping is the one common denominator that we can do in order to get scouts back outdoors. So some of the sample activities, dinner patrol meetings, in the park, get them outside. For most of us, schools are not acceptable. We're not going to let us on site at all this year, at least for the foreseeable future. So local parks while the weather is good. Also look at your charter organization. I can say for my pack, we're chartered by the Elks Lodge. We're using their parking lot a whole lot this year to do different things. Some activities that we're going to be doing is, instead of our normal Halloween carnival, we're going to be doing a socially distanced costume parade. You can have the kids decorate bikes or scooters, for holidays, and do a holiday parade in the parking lot as long as it's not raining. There are other things that we can do, and then day hikes are a great one. Across the council, in addition to the Trail Trekker program, Mount Diablo Silverado, the Legacy Council there had a Highlander program, which brings more trails to all of us to use, to where the scouts can earn some patches. Games and activities, try and have the scouts bring their own equipment, not share as much as you can. Observe things, as a group. And then service projects are a big one. This is a great opportunity to get scouts out into the public and doing service. Campus cleanups, things like that at the schools could happen, things for your chartering organization, as well as just anything within the community. All of us here in Twin Valley District, need a little bit of helping hand to see some good in society.
All right, thanks very much, Joe. So now that we've talked about the various guidelines, really sped through them, but you get a good sense about where we're all coming from. I'm going to talk a little bit on the online logistics. So right now we're using Zoom. This has been a very popular platform, but it's not the only one. WebEx, Google Meet, a variety of other products that let you meet virtually. When you're setting up these meetings, it's very good, just as we have here, to have one or more presenters. These are the people who are kind of in front of you doing most of the speaking, MC, if you will, and then to have a moderator or more. These are people who are watching behind the scenes, watching the chats that may be going on, helping the presenter, because a presenter has a hard time, I know personally, watching everything that's going on the screen. So a moderator can bring to the presenter's attention a key question that might have been added to the chat. There's a BSA put a great document. It's actually a PowerPoint slide deck on Zoom itself. A lot of the things that they talk about are applicable to the other applications, but this one was focused on Zoom and controlling the meetings via that. Some key aspects that I want to highlight that is in that document are about how to make these safe, mainly because these are online meetings that the youth are participating in. So make sure that the meetings are password protected, which means that when you set up the meeting, you set up a password that has to be entered in order to get into the meeting. Turn off the default participant screen sharing. You can always turn that on as a moderator or as a host. You can turn that on for specific people if needed, but turn it off by default. And a really key here, don't record meetings that include the youth participants. It's a Guide to Safe Scouting, youth protection thing that we cannot be recording the youths. So now that we've covered how to do, we're going to talk about what to do. And the key message here is meet and have fun regularly. You may not be meeting as regularly as you had been in the past. Perhaps your PACs, DENs have been meeting, perhaps maybe 3 times a month and a PAC meeting once a month. Well, you might be cutting that back to 1 DEN meeting a month and a PAC meeting a month. Whatever you need to do, just make sure that you put together your calendars so that you have things planned, DEN meeting, patrol meeting, and overall unit meeting wise. If you're talking about PACs of the troops or larger organizations, you're probably going to be doing this virtually. A key thing here is well-planned content is going to engage every participant much more. A lot of the youth have been, and us as well as adults, have been on these virtual meetings via school or work. In scouting, we want these to be fun events. So let me turn it over to Kimberly Carlson, Troop 92998, who's going to talk about a fairly recent troop meeting that they had.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Carlson. We have a troop of about 30 scouts. We are an all-girl troop, and my girls are very active. They like to do a lot of stuff, and they get together and they play games and other things. But recently they said, you know what, we've got new scouts that have come in. We've never even actually been able to really meet with them. We're still kind of we're still all meeting virtually. And they came up with the idea to create breakout rooms where they would have our older scouts or our scouts who are star and above or first class and above teach these new scouts the first 4 ranks. So we'd have a room that's on Scout, a room on Tenderfoot, second class and first class. And while they were in there, they were doing these interactive activities and working with them on the different rank advancement requirements that are necessary for each of those ranks. And afterwards, they shot a bunch of emails to our advancement chair, who was very busy entering things into Scout Book. Thank you, Shannon. To get all those scouts updated, because now, they were able to they were able to, in a virtual setting, get a lot of these rank requirements fulfilled.
Great, thanks, Kimberly.
Sure.
So that's one idea for meeting as the large group virtually. In-person meetings, and I want to highlight, as Joe did, these need to be approved in writing by your charter organization. The charter organization is in charge of the unit. So they need to be made aware of things that you're doing. We highly suggest outdoor events because even for small groups of den or patrol size, it's difficult to social distance indoors. So you're probably talking about things that are being done in the parks or backyards or the like. And we're talking mainly about doing it at the den and patrol level versus pack or troop level. But there are ways to do things as a pack or troop, and we'll hear a couple different examples of that going forward. Right now, if I could have Tammy Vieira, who's the committee chair for Troop 939, talk about some of the activities that we've been running over the course of the summer. Tammy?
Got a light right behind me. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, I'm Tammy with Troop 939. We have a fairly large boy troop now. We're running close to 50 boys. They're very active, enjoying the outdoors. And so I'll just mention a couple things we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 months. We have a pretty vigorous cycling program. We actually do this every year normally, so we just continued to do it this year through the COVID. We invite roughly 12 boys for any particular cycling day. If we have more interest on a particular day, we would just break them up into 2 groups, and we still always have enough adult leadership for the 2 deep leadership on these rides. And we focus on doing rides that meet the cycling program so that they can complete their merit badge over roughly 2 to 3 months of cycling. So very enjoyable for everybody. The boys really, really like that. We've had a lot of attendance this year, probably a little bit more than usual because it is an activity you can do during COVID. We do wear our masks when we're cycling. We have a few boys that are potentially asthmatic. So if we have any breathing problems, we just stop and we'll have that singular scout remove his mask so he can get his breath back and that sort of thing. So we monitor that as well during our program. The other thing, we also usually have a pretty strong hiking program. So we're getting that going again through the fall. We're just starting up. So we don't usually get quite as much attendance on our hiking program, but I think as we set more dates on that, we'll get more and more attendance. So we've had 1 or 2 hikes with roughly about 6 scouts, and we'll continue to schedule those hikes in. And that's also, we usually run these so that boys can complete merit badges over time. We also have scheduled a lot of service projects, which keeps the boys active in the community. We had one scout actually, he actually spearheaded a food drive for fire evacuees since we had a lot of fires in our area. And then we found the most need for the food actually was mostly needed down in Santa Cruz. They had more use for it down there than here locally. So we actually took the food down to Santa Cruz for the evacuees down there, and they were very thankful. And we have more service projects coming up. We have one this weekend for creek cleanup to celebrate our creeks and waterways. That's the month of September. And we have a couple others in the pipeline for service projects over the next 2 months, including, of course, scouting for food. And we have 2 others. So quite a bit going on. Our boys like to get out. These are all outdoors. We wear masks during the process, and We always bring hand sanitizer and that sort of thing. And it's been very successful and our boys love it. So,
Great. Thank you, Tammy.
you're welcome.
So a really important aspect of scouting is the awards and recognition that we're giving our youth. So please continue to be doing these. They can be done virtually or with some special guidance. They can be done in person. If being done virtually, you'll want to get the whatever is being awarded, patches, belt loops, so on and so forth, to the families, and then engage, have the families on the Zoom meeting or the like, do the presenting of the awards to the youth. It really gets the families involved even more so than they are already in the scouting area. These can be done in person, and for that, I'd like to invite Joe Barton back as his TAC 915 committee chair role to talk about something that they ran recently.
Thanks, Mike. So TAC 915 last weekend, like many of us, we hadn't recognized our scouts properly last spring with the uncertainty with COVID. So we met at the park outside of, in the neighborhood where most of our scouts are from, and we did a socially distanced advancement ceremony. So the way we organized it is we set up the bridge, and then we staggered the times of each den. So we placed the scouts all on one side of the bridge, socially distanced apart. When the parents came, there was a bag that had all of their scouts awards, belt loops, patches, etc., as well as their new hat, neckerchief, and slide. And then we called each scout individually. They stopped in the middle of the bridge. They wore masks at all times, except in the middle of the bridge where they were allowed to take it off. The parents stood behind them. We did a photo opportunity there. The parents then moved back to the other side of the bridge. The scout gave their scout sign, repeated after the Cubmaster the oath and law, and then moved across the side to their parents where they got their new regalia for the next year. In a typical year, we would have done it with the leaders presenting to the scouts, but we did it this year with the parents doing it, and that actually turned out really nicely because the scout then was able to give the parents' pin to their parents right away and to pin them on that, and it actually cut down on the time. So we started at 9:30 Saturday morning. Each den was about 15 minutes apart, and we were done and out of there about 11. So it was about an hour and a half. Everybody was happy, and it really turned into a nice event, and the kids did great. We were really worried about them kind of first time seeing each other. Are they going to run around? Are they going to not behave it? And I'll tell you, these kids are more resilient than we are when it comes to all of this stuff. And they were just fantastic, and the parents felt good. Like most of you, we've lost about 50% of our membership through all of this, and it's nice to see that the families that are left are truly committed and excited.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, hi. So if I can add to that, this is Deepak from Troop 908, and we did a virtual court of honor in April, and we were kind of not prepared that time because this was sudden, and then yes, court of honor is something you don't want to miss, right? Because scouts look forward to it. We set up, we have around 75 scouts. So we set it up we got the Zoom account, to set up the meeting, and we were fortunate to have Matt join our session. For scouts, what we did, for Eagle Scouts, we did deliver the neckerchief to the Eagle Scouts, and then they took turn, to present their parent neckerchief to Eagle Scouts. And the badges we did not, usually we distribute at the court of honor, but we did not do that because of the COVID situation. And the attendance was pretty good. I mean, I was surprised to see, there were 50, or more, participants in the Zoom meeting, and it turned out pretty good. And we are slowly starting to go out. This weekend, we are doing service at church. Yeah, looking forward to the new guidelines. Boys do want to get out.
Great, thank you, Deepak. So another thing that can be done either at the Cub Scout level or the Boy Scout or Scouts BSA level, is do a virtual camp out. Most of you know that National sponsored a virtual camp out. I think it was late spring, early summer this year. I'm not sure how many of our units participated in that, but certainly is a great idea to put together your own virtual camp out. It can be done at a den or patrol level, or at the unit, at the pack or troop level. The kids can set up their tents outside or inside, or create a tent out of the furniture and blankets. They can be good if you provided or suggested some activities for them to be doing that they can be doing kind of on their own, and then perhaps have a virtual campfire. So I know that PAC 943 is scheduling something like that. Patrick Marco, would you like to say something more about that?
Sure. In September, we typically like to do a kind of a free camp out for all the PAC families. Just kind of welcome them back into scouting. And for a lot of folks, it's probably the first time they've ever been in a tent. Of course, we're not able to do that this year, so we are taking the cue from National and thinking, well, how can we still kind of maintain that tradition? And so we're thinking about probably doing a one-night virtual camp out on a Saturday, and where we basically coordinate with the entire pack to have everyone try to set up a tent in their backyard. Maybe if they don't have a backyard, it could be a sleeping bag in a dark room. But we're going to host a virtual online pack meeting, and the plan is to have some sort of virtual campfire program around that. The other thing that we're kind of tying in to that is that the month of October, typically we do a Halloween themed pack meeting. Usually all the scouts are in their costumes, and we do a big trunk or treat activity in the parking lot, which of course we're not going to be able to do. But we're thinking about how do we do this, something that's still fun for the scouts. And we're going to do something called like a You've Been Booed thing, where we get organized at the den level to find out, how many scouts are in there, who's going to participate, and then basically set some limits around exchanging a gift. And then that can be part of the reveal. They can reveal what they got as, part of that virtual camp out. So anyway, just something that is thematic, and also to kind of keep some of the fun usually involved in Cub Scouts.
All right, thank you, Patrick. So just about the end of our joint session here, I did want to point out that our brothers at the Mission Peaks District have put together their own set of resources that's on their Mission Peak Scouts website. A lot of it is the same kind of information that we have here, but there are a number of other things that you might want to look into in terms of ideas and guidelines. So please make use of that resource.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
So on that page, there's like 9 or 10 individual blog articles, and not every article is as impactful. Some of them have one and only one idea in them, but 2 of them are recaps of roundtable meetings we've had. So one is a recap with about 10 or 20 ideas for Scouts BSA from a roundtable, and another one is about 15 or 20 ideas for Cub Scouts, recapping a roundtable. So don't read the first one and say, oh, that's just a rehash of something GGAC put out. Troll and look for the 2 that have 10 or 20 ideas in them each. Those are probably the 2 best posts.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. So it's time now for us to break out into and talk some more details in the specific Cub Scouts and Scouts BSA programs. So those that are associated with PACs are going to be following Patrick Markle to that breakout, and those associated with troops are going to be following Peter Zizka in the Scouts breakout. So enjoy, and I'll be joining you in the Cub program.